probably not said this publicly.
Yes.
For many months, I would see him.
So, but by 1975, I joined an aggressive group of evangelists.
The Lord himself took me on a journey where he began to pull me closer.
The guy says, I want to date you. And if he dates you for 2 or 3 years, now you are outdated,
Okay.
I want to move on. He has not lied.
You know how sometimes our children will tell you, I can swim, and then you hit the point.
They'll go down like a rock.
You're welcome with Life Series with Dr. Joe Takon podcast, where real life issues intersect with dialogue, thoughtful dialogue, and biblical insight regarding the issues that affect the common man. Across the country and across the world right now, so much is happening. Students are on the streets, people are on the streets, Republicans are fighting Democrats, Democrats are fighting Republicans, Israel is fighting almost everybody from Hamas to Hezbollah to Iran and Iraq, and Russia is fighting Ukraine. And in America in particular, we have a president who has taken upon himself to introduce global tariffs against almost every nation in the world. But beyond the tariffs, there are also other issues that affect almost every individual in this country. People who've been in this country for decades are worried about their immigration status. Some of them are American citizens, some of them have green card, they are green card holders, but everybody is concerned. There's fear on the street. Only recently, one of the senators said that we are all afraid. Lisa Murkowski, the senator from Alaska. So in this series, what we do, we look beyond the headlines. We dig deeper. We dive deeper into some of the issues that are affecting the common man, the news, and the issues that are on the lips of everybody. And so today we are going to take on this topic, this issue that is almost universally affecting everybody, and that is the immigration matter. With me in the studio today is a notable attorney who works in a reputable law firm. We are excited because she's an immigration attorney, and she will know, no other person knows this topic better than an immigration attorney. Natalie Griggs, you're welcome.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me. I'm looking forward to discussing today.
Wow. I would like you to reemphasize that. It's important that you consult a professional attorney, not a fake quack attorney. Huh?
Yes. Unfortunately, I know there are a lot of people, there are a lot of scammers out there. We're in Atlanta, so that's another thing. But it's very important to consult an attorney, specifically because one of the knowledge base, a lot of immigration attorneys are skilled in this area specifically. But also they're able to network with other attorneys and kind of have their questions answered if they get stuck on a specific topic. The other thing is you can hold the attorney accountable. If the attorney messes up your case, sometimes that can be helpful for you in the long run.
That was helpful for me. I mean, I'll tell you my story. That was helpful for me because I had to report to the Texas bar. I reported the attorney to the Texas bar. Of course, his response was useful in me getting my approval because it was obvious that he did not know his onions, and I used his response to respond to the CIS to get my approval.
Right, so see, you're a perfect witness of that. But also, like he said, the bar in each state is who licensed attorneys.
That's right.
So there is someone that I have to live up, well, for me, 2 different states that I have to answer to if I do anything incorrectly or wrong, or if I miss a deadline. Sometimes people get a friend or a notary or a family member. You can't really hold them accountable the same way that you would if an attorney is involved in your case.
It's interesting, and I'd like you to really take note of what she has said, because for me as a Christian leader, I deal with this all the time. People tell me, I'm going for an interview, I want to fill these forms. And I always insist, get an attorney to do it for you. I've told some people that as much as I have read about immigration matters, I will never go to an immigration interview on my own. I mean, I will make sure that I get an attorney, and that's what I advise every single person to do. Now, there are some attorneys who don't really know their stuff. How do you differentiate from an attorney who knows their onions and the one that does not know what they're doing?
I would say a lot of times Google is your friend.
Good. Talk to Dr. Google.
Definitely your friend. Because you can Google a person, an attorney, you can see how long have they been licensed. You could possibly find their resume, find information about them. But also, if you're in immigration court, they have a QR code at every immigration court, and they'll give you a paper list of all the attorneys who've been disciplined. So you'll be able to know, has the attorney that I'm about to hire, have they ever been in trouble? The bar's website also will tell you if they've ever been what we call admonished or sanctioned, or ever lost their bar license at any point in time, or been suspended. So definitely do your research. I will say, of course, even though Google is free, and most of these resources are also free, make sure that you're looking at reputable resources and websites for
That's
that.
right. That's right. Okay. So it's important for you to want to talk to Dr. Google and ensure that you are hiring a reputable, knowledgeable attorney, because from my experience, having been out there in immigration quagmire, I knew that some immigration attorneys didn't know what they were talking about. They really did not know their onions. And I had to do a lot of reading. You know, that was when the internet became commonplace and Google became commonplace. And so I had to do a lot of reading, subscribe to immigration bulletins and read the manuals in order to understand what I was grappling with. Okay, that's good. Now you get an attorney. How much information do you give the attorney? Because some people don't tell their attorney the truth. Have you been married before? No, I've not been married before. And then along the way you discover, yeah.
You give your attorney everything, every little thing that you, I mean, sometimes you might think it's irrelevant, like, oh yeah, I was deported before, or I entered the US and I filed this application, but I withdrew it. Doesn't matter. You have a paper trail at some point, and no attorney wants to be surprised at an immigration interview or immigration court, specifically in this administration, because occasionally you'll go, if the case gets denied, you're automatically being sent to court. If your case at court gets denied and you can't appeal it, you're automatically being detained or sent back to your home country.
Okay.
So tell the attorney everything.
Tell the attorney everything and tell the attorney the truth. You know,
Exactly.
it's important. If you've been in the country before, you want your attorney to know, you know, your real names, how many names you've had. Because, surprise, surprise, that's one of the things that's shocking. Once you go to the immigration officer, once they put in your name, that's one of the things that shocked me. When I applied for global entry. So I went there and the man turned on the computer and my name, I saw almost every little detail about me on that screen. The first day I came into the country, every single time I went out. So you don't want to hide all of that from the attorney. You don't want to hide that from your attorney, because one day it will catch up with you.
And also with immigration, they will fingerprint you.
Yep.
So if you tell me I've never been arrested, I'm going to take your word for it.
Okay.
So then when we get a long piece of paper saying, well, explain these 12 arrests in these 3 states, now I have to look at you like, oh no, we'll come right back to that. We'll come right back. Let me just go consult with them and see what's going on. And at that point, you've unfortunately kind of dug a hole that you might not be able to get out of.
Yeah,
So.
yeah. Okay. So now let's assume I'm a student.
Okay.
Okay, I've come into the country and I want to settle in. I want to settle down in this country. Okay, I come talk to you. Are there pathways where I can settle down legally?
Definitely. So it does depend on what you were studying.
Okay.
In certain cases, depending on your degree, you might be able to kind of extend that status and get an employer to sponsor you.
Okay.
In other cases, if you're a student, there are other ways to change status, specifically maybe through a family member, or maybe if you're a victim of a crime or things of that nature. So definitely come and talk to an attorney and see any options
What
for
the
you.
options are.
Right.
Yeah, it's interesting. You talk about being a victim of a crime, and that's something a lot of people don't know about. You know, how being a victim of a crime can become a pathway for you to get integrated in the society, right?
And even lesser known, sometimes just being a witness to anything or having to testify before the court.
Oh, really?
In certain cases, that's enough as well.
Wow.
Yes, depending on what the case is.
Yeah, do you want to expand on that?
Yes, so there's something called a U visa. A U visa is for victims of certain crimes. You do have to get it certified, so basically either a law enforcement officer, a prosecutor, or a judge would have to certify it. And a U visa, that first step, once you get that certification, you apply for the application. And it is a lengthy process, but you can get a green card from that. So can your family members, even if they're not in the United States.
Okay.
There's a process called an S visa if you are an informant or a witness in certain cases. Depending on the case and basically the notoriety of the case, you might also be eligible for another visa.
Okay.
I will say that's becoming a little bit more difficult because certain...
A lot of people are taking advantage of that, right? Or what?
That, but also certain locations are no longer signing off. So we're having to get a little creative every now and then.
Okay. Now, does that apply to somebody who is already out of status? Or you have to be in status before you apply for either of those?
You do not have to be in status for
Are you
those.
kidding me?
No.
Well, okay, that's
Yes.
good.
And
That's-
you don't even have to enter with a visa or with papers for those as well.
Wow, that's good news. I like you know, I deal with people, I advise all the time. Okay, so now I want to apply for a visa, but I'm not a student. I came in here as a married man with a family and all that. What are the options?
So typically at that point, we would have to look to see if you have any fears of returning.
Okay.
And if those fears are grave enough for you to be able to apply for asylum
Okay,
or
Abrego
withholding
Garcia.
removal. Right.
Is that the type of break had?
Right, exactly. Or even in certain cases, if you've been here long enough and your family has status, you have a U.S. citizen child,
Yes.
that could be something to kind of get you status in the future if you were placed in immigration court. The other thing is, depending on how you initially entered, sometimes you're able to change from one visa to the next.
Exactly.
But a lot of visas you actually have to apply for and return and go to a consulate interview, so it'll be out of the country.
Yes.
There are kind of limited options once you enter the United States as far as which visas you can change to.
Okay. Now, one of the things that we're dealing with is the fear of being arrested.
Yes.
Okay. We'll come back to some of this topic because what we are doing today is just a teaser.
Right.
And I'd like us to dive deeper. Now, the fear of being arrested. I've talked to some of my members who they have an application, a pending application. Some of them have their EAD card. Some of them have been given a driver's license and all of that. And they said, I'm scared to go out. I'm scared to drive. I'm scared. Is their fear reasonable?
I will say the fear is reasonable, but there are things to do to mitigate that fear to feel a little bit better.
Okay.
I would say specifically, if you have a driver's license, you are eligible to drive, right?
Yes.
The state has given you permission to drive.
That's correct.
Now, that does not mean go out and drive crazy or go out and drive drunk, because unfortunately that puts you in a lot more trouble than you need to.
Okay.
As far as other potential fears, I typically tell people to kind of focus on a couple things. One, staying out of trouble.
Stay out of trouble. Stay out of trouble.
trouble.
If somebody punches you in the face, just go away.
And also check with your attorney to see if that's a U visa qualification.
Okay.
The other thing I would say is if you've been in the United States more than 2 years, if you have U.S. citizens, spouses or children or parents, or even green card holders, spouses, children, parents, kind of keep that record on you as well. Because if you have proof that you've been here more than 2 years, you're not necessarily at risk for being expeditedly removed.
Oh, really?
So that's when a person is kind of what we see now.
What kind of relief do you call that?
So basically, if they were to put you in immigration custody, you usually would be eligible for a bond, kind of like a criminal case.
Okay.
And you would also go through the actual court process with an immigration judge.
Do we have due process now?
Allegedly. For right now, it's barely hanging on, but a little bit. But for people, unfortunately, who entered less than 2 years ago, there's a process called expedited removal.
Oh, really?
You can't really get out of detention, and unfortunately, unless you have a valid fear, they will just remove you from the United States without you even having an opportunity to move forward with your case.
Okay. So it's very important for you to know some of the resources that are available to you. For instance, family members, job opportunities, and all that, so that when you come in initially, you can avail yourself of those opportunities in order to be integrated, right?
Exactly.
To get your green card or things like that.
Exactly.
Okay. And in the event where you fall in trouble, you want to call an attorney. Okay. You call an attorney and do what?
So the first things first, there's certain information that you need to keep on you or to explain to your family or trusted friend, whoever's going to be contacting the attorney on your behalf.
Okay.
The biggest thing is your A number. So
your A number, your alien number. Okay.
Your A number typically starts with a 0 or a 2.
Okay.
So it's 8 or 9 digits. Memorize it if you can.
Wow.
If you don't memorize it, whenever you are given an opportunity to speak to someone, make sure you have that information or that paperwork in front of you.
Okay.
That's how an attorney can locate you.
Okay.
I'm not sure if you've been following the news, but they're moving people from one detention facility to the other, and so it's kind of hard to keep track.
Why do they do that?
At this point, I just think they're trying to tire people out so they won't fight their cases anymore.
Wow. Okay.
I would say, again, tell the trusted individual or the attorney every time you've been arrested, the exact truth.
You want to tell them the truth.
All locations and everything that you would need to see if you're eligible for any type of benefit.
Okay. So do you think that some of these ICE raids, would you want to tie it to a political agenda?
I think the ICE raids are kind of tied to some of the new buzzwords, like the fact that everyone thinks immigration is criminal and everyone is kind of going after the immigrants because of economic and criminal reasons. I don't really see the need for them, to be honest. But that's something that's happening across the country. I know there's been a lot of protests, specifically like in LA and Chicago. There have been a lot of protests, and even in Atlanta as well.
Okay. Now, I'm a Christian leader.
Yes.
Okay. And so every now and again, I'm caught in this, I'm caught in the crosshairs of what do I tell my Christian followers, the people I lead. Do I tell them to just pray and trust God, or I tell them to pray and do the right thing?
Right.
Okay. So what would you say to me?
So my favorite thing that I quote all the time, faith without works.
Is
So
that-
I feel like, it's really important to pray and it's really important to keep the faith no matter your immigration situation.
Okay.
But also make sure you're taking action. Make sure you're gathering your paperwork. Make sure you're advocating for your fellow neighbor. Make sure you are literally being the person Jesus would want you to be.
Okay.
Because as a Christian, we're following his teachings.
That's right.
So there are certain things that as a Christian we should be standing up
Okay.
for. Jesus wasn't past us.
Okay.
So.
So what would you say to some of my Christian colleagues who believe that, well, every immigrant who's in this country who has broken the law, they should be bussed and taken out to the border and thrown out to whatever country they want to go? What would you say? What would you tell me to tell them? Because for me, that's a dilemma.
Exactly.
Yes, I subscribe to adherence to the law, but again, compassion demands that I consider those who are in a quagmire. If they want to come into this country, they want to, they're looking for a better life for themselves and their family. So I'm caught in that conflict.
I would just say, one, kind of make sure that you're educating the population.
Okay.
I'm also kind of encouraging them to kind of change news stations, kind of get a varied opinion. You can kind of hear it spewed one way or the other, but if you've been looking at the news, there are a lot of things that were legal that are being taken away. Our office had the pleasure of working with a number of students across the country and helping them restore their records to go back to school. So all these individuals were lawfully here, lawfully present in school, and the next thing you know, they were receiving notices that their paperwork had been terminated.
Okay.
Same thing with people that were here for protected status from a number of countries, temporary protected status. The government said they're okay to be here because their countries are not stable, whether that was because of environmental reasons or because of war or other issues. So unfortunately, we're kind of causing some people to be here without status. We're kind of causing people to break the law at this particular point.
Okay.
Even as an attorney, to me, it's unreasonable to say, hey, you no longer have paperwork, you need to be on the first thing out tomorrow. Some people don't have the financial resources. Some people might not know how to actually navigate a system. Unfortunately, I have a lot of clients who don't even read that well. So you have to kind of think about the whole person and just make sure that you're, again, teaching compassion to the people, to your followers as well.
It's interesting you're talking about folks who have had temporary protected status, for a while. I lived in Haiti for about 4 years.
Oh, wow.
And a couple of years ago, I wanted to travel to Haiti. I was specifically told, I called some of our members in Haiti and I said, I'm coming to visit. They say, hey, don't come. And it was that week that the president was killed, because they told me not to come because that the security in the country was totally out of control. So it was that week the president was killed. Now, when you look at what's going on in Haiti right now, in particular, where the gangs have taken over the country, right? And only recently, the news went out that all the Haitians who were here, their TPS has been cancelled, their temporary protected status. What do I tell a Haitian who has to go back to his country? I mean, who is compelled to go back to his country?
I will say it's strange that we brought that up, but actually today, a federal judge has said that's unlawful. You cannot just strip people of their protected status, specifically for Haitians. So if they're in that type of boat, I would say definitely maybe consult an attorney. As of right now, a lot of different judges in different courts across the country are doing what we call injunctions. So basically temporarily halting or stopping an order. And that was one that actually came out today.
Now, some of these Haitians, for instance, some of the Haitians are not just Haitians. I'm talking about immigrants. Because even for me, I know how much money I spent going through that, trying to navigate that whole process of getting legalized and getting my green card. Some of them don't have the financial bandwidth to muscle their way through this.
Exactly.
What do they do?
I would say there are a couple of nonprofits across the country. Unfortunately, some have been stripped of their funding. But I know locally.
Is it with a new bill, or they've just been stripped of their funding before now?
They were stripped, I believe, maybe back in March or April in some of the certain programs. Specifically, I know a lot of, I think it's KIND, Kids in Need of Defense, that represented unaccompanied children of all things. They were stripped of funding. But I know locally and across the country, there's things such as Catholic Charities. There's the CARE Coalition, which is the Council on American Islamic Relations. There's a Latin American association. You do not have to be Latin American to get assistance from them.
Okay.
But there are a lot of different nonprofits across the country that are willing to help.
Yeah.
Also, certain attorneys do what we call pro bono or low bono.
I know. Does your firm do that?
Occasionally, depending on the circumstances, occasionally.
Okay.
So pro bono is basically without pay.
Yeah.
Low bono is at a reduced cost.
Okay.
So I would say don't count yourself out just because you don't have the financial resources.
Yeah.
And then there are also a lot of organizations, law firms, even with AILA, the American Immigration Lawyers.
Yes.
They typically do kind of events where they do some things for free.
Okay.
So I know there's a citizenship day,
Okay.
things of that nature where they kind of assist with whatever paperwork. There was one where they assisted with asylum applications. So kind of just look out for your community.
Okay. Now, we're running out of time, but I want to ask this because that was relevant to me in particular. To what extent would you say that, I'm not an immigration attorney, I'm not an attorney, but how much studying and reading to understand my case do you think will be helpful in walking me through that path or helping me towards getting my status?
I know for me personally, I think I get on my clients' nerves because I will have a 30-minute phone call like, okay, these are the steps, now read it back to me.
Okay.
What's going on?
Yeah.
I think it's very important for you to know the case posture and the case history because it helps your attorney if you, for instance, move or change attorneys or something changes the game, like you might receive that notice to appear in immigration court or you might be detained. It's really important to be able to at least on the bare minimum summarize what's going on in your case.
Okay, that's very interesting. Well,
I had one question I wanted to ask you as well, specifically as a Christian leader, but also as an immigrant. I guess how is the current immigration crisis, I think, affecting you personally as well as a leader in your position?
Well, that's a very interesting question. Thank you for that. Now, thankfully, in our local church, when this whole, the present political climate became commonplace, there are some people who stopped coming to church.
Oh, wow.
And I understood. For some of them, I understand their positions. For those who I did not even know their immigration status, that gave me a clue to where things were. And I had to be very sympathetic. So one of the things I've done, and of course, attendance, decrease, and naturally when attendance decreases, it also affects how much money revenue comes into the local church. And then for some who have immigration cases, we have to support. So our welfare has actually spiked because some of them have to go to court, some of them are looking for an attorney, some of them need that moral support. Thankfully, this time I've never had to go to court, but there are times in the past when I've had to go to court to support some of our members and even write letters, letters of support and all of that, testing to their personality, their integrity, and their reputation. So we still do that now. We still write those letters. I've not gone to court, and but support for some of the immigration cases have gone up. And of course, one other thing is that we pray a lot more now for immigration cases. Because people are either telling me, I'm going for an interview, I wanted to pray, I've been waiting for my application for so long, I've been waiting for a response from the CIS for so long, and nothing has happened. So on the whole, we really are focused on that, as an immigrant church, and we try to give hope to the people because, again, this is me, this is what I believe. If God brought you here, God will keep you here.
Exactly.
You stay out of trouble so that it doesn't become too hard for us to get you out of the hole. Let's just stay in a place where it's easier for us to pray and to support and to help where it is necessary.
No, I love that you asked me to be here today. I think it's really important and it shows your support for the immigrant community. So thank you again.
Because we want people to be very educated. We want people to know the truth, because when they know the truth, it becomes easier for them to navigate all the potholes and the bottlenecks around the immigration issue. We've run out of time today. We've actually gone beyond time, but as you can see, this is a teaser. This is our first recording, our first podcast where we are discussing the immigration issue. Certainly, Natalie will be back in the studio, and I want you, same time next week, tune in to this same station for another episode with Live Series with Dr. Joe Takon. Thank you.